Hey guys, and welcome to episode 3.5 of my merchanting series. Now, as this is episode 3.5, this will be the guide aspect of the series, and the focus of this episode is cheap treasure trail flipping. So treasure trails have been the item that I've been doing in my progress videos for the last two episodes now. So hopefully you guys will learn something, enjoy it, and time to start the video. So if you're going to want to start merchanting treasure trail items, obviously you've got to know what the rewards are. Now for this I've just literally Google searched RS Wiki treasure trail rewards, and it got me to this page, and it gives you an entire list of the treasure trail rewards that there are in game. Now first we'll just look at the treasure trail rewards that you can get for any level, which would mean you could get these at an easy reward, an elite reward, or anything in the middle. Now, the only problem with these rewards are most of them are either just pretty much junk or they're untradeable. And things like the composite bows at the bottom, they're obviously just like 1k each, and you're never going to make significant profit on them. Same with the meerkat pouches and the arrows, and things out of that list that would work would only really be the god pages and the purple sweets. And the way you would be able to flip those is people who have just completed clue scrolls. They obviously aren't really going to know what prices those items are going for, and typically they would instant sell it. Now that is where they would instant sell to you. Then you would put it in at a higher price, and then people who would actually want the purple sweets for doing things like fight caves or whatever you actually use them for, or people who just completed Horror from the Deep and wanted to buy a Zami book, they would go and just instant buy the god pages and hopefully instant buy it off you. Now obviously it's a bit more complicated than that, but that is the basic scheme of things that we're trying to do here. And out of all that list, I would just say purple sweets and the god pages that will be possible to flip. As for the easy rewards, you can see that there's a lot of cosmetic items and just like gold trimmed and regular trimmed variations of old armour. Now out of this list, I'm pretty sure that you could flip most of it. In fact, there's only a few items such as the black crossbow and the black bolts that really wouldn't be worth the time, as if you've never seen anyone in the game using the items, you probably can't flip it. And I've never seen anyone use black crossbow or black bolts. They just, no one's going to be buying them. You'll struggle to buy them, let alone sell them at a profit. So anything in that list apart from really the black crossbow and the black bolts, as long as it's worth a decent-ish amount of money, then you should be able to invest some money into it and get a nice profit on it. Now we come on to the medium rewards, and these rewards have the same kind of things, although they do have some more interesting things in them. So you've got things there like the trim.addy armor sets which we had before. However, we've also got new items which are popping in, like the ranger boots and these new animal masks at the bottom. Now, both of these items can be quite good, however they aren't going to be making the same percentage profit as things like the flared trousers, which is unfortunate as they would be awesome if they did. However, things like the wizard boots, I did see in a video by, I think it was Smokey9112, where he bought the wizard boots at 500k and sold them at 1 mil, so he was pretty much doubling his money whenever he bought a pair of them. I'm not sure how often they bought, and I'm pretty sure it wouldn't really have been as fast as just putting in normal offers for about a 20% profit. But it's one of those things, even when something costs 700k, you can still double your money on it. And all it did was just finding that item, and I'm sure there will be plenty of other items in this list that will do exactly the same. Now, as for items which won't work, I'm pretty sure things like the headbands and the boaters aren't the most expensive of items and probably not going to be worth it. However, things like the Black Elegant, I know the top for example is worth about 1.5 mil, and plenty of those animal masks are worth about 700k to about 1 mil. I think the cat and the wolf mask are the most expensive, and those could definitely make a good profit on. And the ranger boots are a bit of a different item because they aren't as cheap as the rest. However, they don't make the same percentage profit, but ranger boots can be a very easy 200k flip, and they could take literally a matter of 5 minutes once you know the prices. Now we come on to the hard rewards, And there's a lot of these rewards which are pretty much just the same, and I'm just going to quickly go through. Things like the different trimmed rune armor, they're all going to be possible to flip. You only make maybe 10% profit on them, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of demand on the free-to-play ones. However, they're not going to be the best of flips, but they will still be flippable. Same with things like the gilded armor. The dragon hide, probably a bit too cheap. Pirate hats, you wouldn't really want to flip them as they're only 100k. You'd only really want to buy those if you wanted to collect more of them than I had. Things like the Robin Hood hats, they are a good flip, and I will definitely mention those in a future episode when I do them. Things like the Enchanted, probably flippable if it costs enough. Cavaliers, again, if they cost enough. The black one probably being the best. Then just quickly I'll mention Third Age, don't do those. If you're watching this video about a guide on flipping treasure trails, you probably won't be able to flip Third Age armor, because it does take a bit more knowledge and a bit more experience. Then again, things like the vestments, mitres, cloaks and crozier things, if they cost enough, give them a go, but I'm pretty sure most of those are junk. And then finally, out of the blessed sets, probably just the bodies that are anywhere near close to the right price, and the animal masks and dragon masks. Again, any that are worth maybe 600k and over would be a decent flip. And finally, just a quick mention to the elite rewards. Now at the top you've got things like Third Age Druidic, and again, probably not the best idea for a first flip. Sometimes even I've struggled to buy and sell those, and it can take literally a week for a piece of it to sell. So, stay off that if it's your first time trying to flip. As for the rune variants, again, if it costs a decent amount, it'll definitely be possible to flip, but it might not be the best item. The Dragonite sets, again, the bodies will be the best of all those items, I would imagine. However, it just depends on the price. Stalls and croziers, again, if they're worth enough, maybe you'll get a decent return on it, but if it's like 10k, then it's not going to be worth it at all. As for the armor kits, the golden trimmed things and the spike things, they will be decent if the things like the dragon golden kits still cost like 5 or 7 mil. I know some of them did before the armor rework, but a lot of the dragon armor dropped significantly because they basically made it look like crap. So whether or not it's still expensive, it might be good, but I'm pretty sure it's a dead market now. And as for things like the Fury Ornament Kit, that can be a nice item. However, it can often turn in price, which means it's rising, then it turns and starts dropping. And when it does, it can drop literally about 1 mil. So if you want to risk it, you could try it, but I have had to hold about 18 to 20 of those at the same time, waiting for them to rise a bit, because I was literally about 100 mil down on them at one point, which was pretty awful really. And as for the last few items, the bows, I'm pretty sure they'd be possible to flip. I'm not sure of the prices, but I know I flipped them in the past when I was just messing about, but they weren't the best item. And finally the staves, again, if they cost enough, but I don't really imagine anyone ever using them. Apart from the dragon one, I don't think any of them have an actual use. And finally the animal masks, the dragon masks, they're not really traded that often, and they would be really quite slow. However, some of them are really expensive, so it might be worth having a go at those. So basically what I just hammered home there is, you can flip almost all of those items. It just depends on whether or not price-wise it's relevant to you. So obviously, if there's an item there which is 150k and you've got 10 mil, it's probably not going to be worth doing, unless you know that you can buy it at like 150k and sell it for double what it cost you. And if you've got 10 mil, you're probably going to be wanting to look at things that are more like 500k to 1 mil, maybe even more expensive. And likewise, if you've only got 1 mil, you're probably going to be wanting to look for the items that are around 150k. Now, once you've picked an item out of that list, or a couple of items, I do suggest just having a look on the Grand Exchange webpage, because just because it's on that list, or maybe even I just recommended it, I haven't checked all of those items. For all I know, some of those are crashing, and in fact I do know a few which are crashing. So I do just recommend that you do have a look. So what I'm just going to do is just show you a few graphs and just show you what they effectively mean. Now you have the Black Elegant shirt, which I know I did mention. Now the Black Elegant shirt worth 1.4 mil at the minute, which we can see there. And when we look at the graph, it looks like it's been rising a bit, but it looks quite stable. Although when we look at this a bit closer with the 90-day graph, you can see it's risen quite a lot. It's rose from about a mil to 1.5 mil, so it's gone up about 50%. And looking at it on the 180-day graph, you can see that there's quite a big rise. Now, unfortunately with this item, it has just started to drop. And had you started to merchant it at this point, you could have been buying at 1.5 mil. And for all I know now, it may be at 1.4 mil, or it may have dropped a lot more, and you could just have lost a lot of money. So for that reason, if anything looks like it's rising, if it just keeps going up every update, it's probably not the safest of items to do. It may make you a lot of money, and risk reward kind of thing, but I don't ever think it's really worth trying to flip an item like that, because you could lose a lot of money, and there are other items out there which can still make you money, and they will be a bit safer. So anything where it looks like it's just risen and risen and risen, I would probably avoid, because you don't know if it's going to drop 100k afterwards or if it's going to drop a mil. No, you really don't. Now another item I want to show is the Wizard Robe Top. And I want to show this because I did it an awful lot in the videos that I was doing. Now, you may think this is a bit hypocritical at the start, because you can see I've just said not to buy something if it's rising, and you can see that the Wizard Robe Top's just rising away here. Now, there is a bit of a difference. When I was flipping it, it was around this place where my cursor is right now. And if you just look at that bit of a graph, it's gone from about 520k to 520k. So it's been really quite stable over that period. It's dropped down about 10%, but it's risen back. However, if you look at things like the 90-day and 180-day graph, you can see it's just been pretty much a big drop. But it did just seem to bottom out a bit here. And because I thought it was bottoming out, you can see there it's just bottomed out a bit and rose, bottomed out a bit and rose. I did predict it to rise a bit here, so I thought maybe I can buy them a bit when they're coming down and sell them a bit on the rise as I was doing it. And I'm pretty sure that is why I was buying them at times for like 600k and selling them for upwards of 770k. But as for the actual graph, around here it's stable. But if you were starting to buy now, probably not the best idea to buy them at 678k or whatever they are now. Because looking at these parts of the graph, you can see it rose a bit there, but then just dropped straight back. Again, rose a bit there, dropped back. So, maybe it'll carry on rising back up. Maybe it'll be its time to rise properly. But, it's equally likely that it'll just start dropping back again now. One graph that I just want to quickly show you is the Black Cavalier one, and I'm showing you this because if you look at the 30-day graph, you can see it was relatively high there, and it dropped a little bit, but it looks like it's quite a gentle drop. Then started to gently rise back up, and it looks like it's just peaking around here. However, when you go into the 90-day graph, you can see it looks a bit sharper, but it still doesn't look like too bad a drop. When you go to the 180-day graph, you can see that graph's just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And whilst I did say that you want to do stable items, something like that, it does look up and down, but you're going to be buying and selling them within the same day. Okay, you may do some overnight and stuff like that, but what I'm trying to say is, even if it's not stable like that, an item like this, whilst it is very volatile, that is over the period of 6 months. And you're going to be buying and selling over one day. And the point I'm trying to make is, okay, you might buy them at something like 440k around here, but the next day, the price of that item shouldn't be 370k like here. Now, I'm pretty sure even after this point in time, you could still sell them for above this price if you were patient enough. And, you might think that's stupid given what I've just said about things rising with the Black Elegant. But, honestly, the there is a difference between something that's naturally quite volatile, like an item like this, and something which has been clearly hoarded and clearly invested in, like the Black Elegant, which I've previously shown you. First of all, it may seem a bit hypocritical that I'm about to show you the flared trousers graph, and I've already mentioned them in my videos, because this does look like a really sharp rise, and one that's been made by people investing into them, like on the Black Elegant sets. And the reason why I still did this item in my progress videos is because if I expected them to drop, I'm pretty sure they would have around this point here, but you can see they did actually carry on rising a little bit. So for that reason I wasn't too concerned about them just completely crashing in price. And with the 30-day graph as well, they do look really stable. In fact, you know, they go from maybe 601k at med there to 625k. Now that's a very stable item over the 30-day period. And for that reason I wasn't too concerned about it. Now what I want to do now is just quickly explain why it actually works to flip all these items. And I'm just going to do this showing on the flared trouser graph because it's really quite easy to do it on this. Now, they only have a buy and sell limit of, well, they only have a buy limit of 2. You can sell as many as you like within 4 hours, but you can only buy 2 in 4 hours. And if you can only buy 2 in 4 hours, typically you'll also be selling a small amount because it'll be harder to buy lots of it. And you may think that's a bad thing. If you can only buy 2, you can't invest as much money, so you can't make as much profit. And whilst it might be true, this is the reason why they have such good margins. Now, one way to explain this is just to think about how the Gren Exchange works. Now, if you look to instant sell any item at 1GP, whether it's a party hat or whether it's flared trousers, it will instantly sell for the highest buy offer that is currently in the Grand Exchange, assuming it's the person isn't on their limit. So if I look to sell flared trousers for 1GP, if someone's trying to buy them for 650k, and that is the highest buy offer, my flared trousers will sell for 650k instead of 1GP. Now, if someone's trying to buy them to flip and they have a buy offer in at 600k, that means as long as they're not on the limit, all the flared trousers will go. If you go to sell them, they will sell for at least 600k. Now, when that person gets on their limit, then the next merchant offer might be on. That might be at 575k, for example. And again, any flared trousers which are sold will then sell instantly for at least 575k. Again, when that person hits their limit, it'll go down to 550k maybe, then like 500k, and it'll keep dropping and dropping as all the buy offers complete. Now, obviously, when people come off their limit, then the price may rise a little bit, and basically, the faster it can go through those limits, the more volatility that the item can have. Now, because these only have a buy limit of 2, then you can't really buy a lot of these items to cap its price within a small range. Obviously, if these items had a buy limit of 100, you could get the price really close to around mid, but because only 2 of them can be bought by one person within the 4 hours, they can often go really quite cheap. And because you can only buy 2 of them, like I said before, you can't collect a lot of them, so you can never really, unless you buy overnight, you can never really sell like 10 or 15 of them at the same time. So you can apply everything I just said, but in reverse, to selling them above mid, and for that reason they can go quite a lot below mid and quite a lot above mid, which gives you the good margins. And as for picking the 10% either side, which I merchanted them for in the end, you know, you've kind of just got to guess at the start, and if they buy fast and they sell fast, see if you can make more money on it. I started just trying to get 50k on it. I think they were buying and selling easily, so I just increased it a little bit. And you've just got to mess around with the prices really. Once you pick your item, if you think it's going to be worth it, just try and buy some below mid, see if they buy. If they can sell above mid, then try them, and hopefully you'll be able to buy and sell them quite easily to the point that you can increase your margins on them. Try and buy them around maybe here and sell them up there, and you'll be making a decent profit on them. Now, one thing I'm just going to quickly warn you, after I make this video, I'm sure there will be people who will instantly try and flip these items, and at the end of the day, I do make these videos just because I'm happy to help you, and I really don't mind if you guys do the items that I show in these videos. But just as a warning, if a few thousand people watch this video and just 1% of those go into this flared trousers market, you will probably crash that market. Well, you wouldn't crash it, but you would make it unflippable, really. So, if you're going to try it, you would be better to pick your own items, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of short-term competition on the items that I've mentioned specifically, and the items that I specifically do. But apart from that, guys, I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've understood some things, hopefully all of it, and maybe even learned something along the way. And if I think of anything else to put in, I will add it to the description. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in another video.